Good afternoon. It is time for another episode of Get to Know Them. Thank you so much for joining. And if you have not tuned into the show before, my name is Monica Graves. I am your host, and I am broadcasting live from Burlington, Ontario. It's a beautiful sunny day here today with a little itsy bitsy teeny weeny bit of snow on the ground. So it's getting us in the Christmas mood. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I cannot wait to introduce our guest for today. You guys, this is going to be a really exciting conversation. So grab your hot tea and take a break and listen to this conversation. It's going to be amazing. So before I introduce our guest, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of show sponsors that we have. Our newest show sponsor, who I'm so excited about, is Scooters Roller Palace in Mississauga, Ontario. This place is a magical place if you are interested in taking up roller skating. If you did it as a kid and you're thinking maybe it's time to get back into it, it's not too late. Scooters is a magical place. You're going to walk into like a portal of retro beauty and magic. It's amazing. And you can roller skate. Thursday nights at 7, they have lessons. Take a lesson and get on the rink. I'm there every Thursday, so come and meet me there. Our second sponsor is, of course, Brenda Bedome, who is a wonderful Canadian clothing designer. She designs clothing for women. I'm always decked out in her clothes. And she has a website, brendabedome.com. Go on there, use the coupon code Get to Know Them, and you will receive 20% off of your order. And last but not least, I sponsor the show as well with my business, Glam Jewels, GLAMJULZ.com. Today, I am wearing one of our Three Little Wishes necklaces, and this is a very special necklace that is helping the McDonald family this year. They are a family suffering from the financial burdens of cancer. Jeff McDonald recently passed away on December the 5th, and thank you all so much for your orders. It's helping the family a lot. As many of you know, he and his wife Cassie have 4 children. So any help you can provide is greatly appreciated. And also coming into the new year, if you have a fundraiser that you would like to do to raise money for a cause you believe in, please reach out to me. I love creating custom pieces and helping people to achieve their fundraising goals. So don't forget that. And now, are you ready? It is time for me to introduce our amazing guest, Lindsay Sutherland Boal. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so here we go. Lindsay's got an amazing bio. Lindsay is a force of positive change, wielding her knowledge and expertise of sober living initiatives and women issues. In 2021, Lindsay founded She Walks Canada, a movement to engage and empower sober and sober-curious women, changing their relationship with alcohol. In its second year, She Walks Canada impacted over 1,000 women transitioning away from alcohol and as a community met and exceeded the circumnavigation goal of 40,070 kilometers. That's about 24,900 miles for our US listeners and viewers, achieving 44,058 kilometers, 27,379 miles. The 2024 walk begins February the 19th, 2024. So we'll have to talk to Lindsay about that, see how we can get involved. As a personal empowerment coach, Lindsay is set to revolutionize the way in which individuals confront their own barriers with her innovative Uncovery method. Her program will soon be accessible online with options for self-guided or mentored courses, offering anyone an opportunity to free themselves from stagnation and claim control of their journey towards success. Additionally, Lindsay is an executive at Urban Outline Building Group, an athlete, a mother, wife, friend, sister, mentor, public speaker, former podcast host, and producer of the COVID Chronicles Canada. Professional opera singer and actor on stage and television. Lindsay is a graduate of the J. Shetty Certification School. That's so exciting. Can't wait to talk to her about that. The Vancouver Academy of Music, Toronto Film School, and Kwantlen Polytechnic University. She has also completed sessional studies at the University of Manitoba, the Cabaret Conference at Yale University, the Lyric Opera Studio Weimar in Germany, the I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Janáček Academy of Music and Performing Arts in the Czech Republic, the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity in Canada, and others. Lindsay is the recipient of over 15 awards, most recently as Distinguished Alumni at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. She has been featured across numerous print channels as well, major networks, leading conversations that impact women everywhere. I discovered Lindsay on Instagram and started following her right away. I gave up alcohol personally in April of 2022, and her message about sober living really resonates me, and so does her approach to it. Here she is. Woo! Lindsay!
Hi. Hello. Yay!
I love your bio. Oh my God. There's like, this could be an 8-hour podcast because you've done so many cool things in your life.
Oh, thank you.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. And I'm so excited to ask you, with all of these things that you do and that you've had experience in, what did little Lindsay want to be when she grew up?
An opera singer.
Oh, yeah?
Mhm.
Right away.
Mhm. I wanted to be in the performing arts. I was a dancer for a bit, and
Yeah.
certainly sang my way, but I knew that I was going to be on stage. That's what I knew, is that I was going to somehow be on stage. It turned out to be opera, and then now it's something completely different, but in the public eye, but different.
Yeah, that's great. Wow. So tell us a little bit about growing up. Where did you grow up?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm an Alberta girl, and I grew up I was born in Edmonton and spent my earlier years in Calgary, which I loved, and then moved to Vancouver and spent my teens in Vancouver. And I also loved that. And I do consider Vancouver home. And then I moved to Toronto, in 2011. So it's been 12 years now, or 11 years now, whatever it is. But I consider Vancouver home for sure.
Okay, cool. And what brought you to Toronto?
I love Vancouver. My heart is there, but I certainly was part of that stereotype. I ate sushi, wore Lululemon pants, and practiced yoga. But it's gorgeous, and I love the outdoor lifestyle. But there was not enough happening for me in that city, so I came to Toronto where there's more going on.
Okay, that's great. And had you been to Toronto like over the years? Did you kind of know the vibe
Well,
before you came?
I knew that there was more going on in the performing arts scene in Toronto, for sure.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh, that's great.
Mhm.
So there's so much to talk about with what you're doing today that I
Yeah.
feel like we should just get right to it.
Yes.
And and tell us about She Walks Canada. This is absolutely amazing what you've accomplished in a year.
Mm.
So how did that all come about?
Right. And so
That you,
She Walks Canada essentially is the reflection of what worked for me in my journey to overcome overdrinking. And I stopped drinking January 24th, 2020, and launched She Walks Canada a year later. So January 24th, 2021, that was our first year. And I wanted to launch it because I didn't want women to feel the way I felt when I was trying to quit. And at that time, my entire social circle were drinkers, and you just didn't come out and say to your friends, and it's still the case, if your social circle is drinkers, you're not going to come out and say, hey, I've got a drinking problem, or I think I'm an alcoholic, or maybe I need to go to treatment. Like, people just don't do that. And I certainly was one of them. And now that I'm a leader in the space and I have a lot more education around the issue and a lot more lived experience, blah, 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 I understand language and impact and experience on an entirely different level. But at that time, there were no options with which I felt I could get support. And I learned that what worked for me was to talk to other strangers who were women, who were navigating the same pathway was that, and it was walking. And so She Walks Canada came to me while I was studying at Jay's program, and I was out for a walk one day, and I thought that this is it. And it started out like it always evolves, right? So She Walks
Yeah.
Canada started as I was going to walk across Canada, but then I'm like, okay, well, where's the community in that? Because I realized that there's so many women that were dealing with this issue. So I'm like, okay, we are going to walk across. Anyways, one thing led to another, and She Walks Canada became a movement to empower and engage sober and sober curious women, changing their relationship with alcohol. And over our 2-year time span now, we've helped over 2,000 women detach from problematic behaviors and live the lives they came here to live.
Wow. So Lindsay, how does the walk work exactly? So if I was to go online and join the walk and I'm in Burlington, Ontario, am I then connected with other women in my community who want to walk with me, or how
Right.
does it work?
Right. And so when we launched, it was at the height of COVID, where you weren't allowed to
Yes.
talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Go and walk with them, right? So when we launched, and it was so funny because oh God, I should write a book. But when we,
You should.
yeah, when we launched, it was 1 week after the truck convoy.
Oh God.
Russia had just invaded the Ukraine, and Canada had just been re-locked down for COVID. And we had just launched. And I remember saying to my team, who in their right mind would choose this time to stop drinking? Right.
Right.
And then my team said, well, are you sure you want to launch? And I said, we have no choice but to launch. We're here. And what I think so many of us know is that we don't make the decision to stop drinking the first time we hear about it, think about it. There's a process of sober curiosity that has to happen there, where we gather information. And I said, for no other reason than to plant the seed, we are launching today. And so in the middle of COVID, people logged their kilometers from wherever they were onto the She Walks Canada website. And collectively, from a safe distance, we
Yeah.
together logged enough kilometers to what I wanted to achieve, which was walking across Canada in 7 months. I'm like, how the hell are we going to walk across Canada in 7 months? We're a brand new initiative. There's a war going on. There's a truck convoy. Everybody's homeschooling. Like, how the heck are we going to do this? And within 7 months, not only did we cross Canada, we crossed Canada 3 times.
Wow.
That was the first year.
Amazing.
So the
Yeah.
second year, my team, and we had no intention of continuing She Walks Canada past the crossing of the finish line. But we learned 3 weeks in that the backbone of She Walks Canada was going to be the support. And so we ended up keeping our group coachings going on, which are certified. They're not peer led, they're professional led. I chose a group of coaches that are all professional, certified coaches that have the lived experience of overcoming overdrinking. And so it was in those rooms that women found the strangers with whom they could connect and realize they weren't alone. So that was year 1. And then year 2, I said to my team, okay, where are we going to go this year? It's COVID. Again, nobody could really, there was still an issue with distance. And so I said, okay, well, let's just go around the world and do it in half the time. And I was just, sort of just said that. And then my team said, okay. I said, oh, okay. And we made that goal 6 days ahead of schedule.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this year, I'm like, okay, now we're to go to Venus. Like, really, what do we do? And so this year, we are taking it up another notch, and we're bringing it to communities. We're going to start walking in person. And we are engaging and recruiting ambassadors from anywhere, wherever they live, to lead walks in their community. And so it's very exciting. So for the first year, we're going to start walking in person. So we'll see what happens. But that's
so cool. Yeah, I love that idea. So, Lindsay, can you tell us about your own story, your personal story with alcohol and your relationship with it? And I wanted to say as well, I'm noticing that you use the term over drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really like. I've never heard that before.
Language matters.
Yeah. Yes, it sure does. Yeah. But I'd love to know your personal story.
Well, what do you want to know? I mean, like, the stories are huge. What?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to know sort of how old you were when you started drinking?
Oh,
What
that.
what excited you about it? Why were you attracted to it? Did you use it to cope? Did you use it to have fun? How did you use alcohol, throughout your...
So it's so funny because I was not a typical kid. I mean, I had a loving family and all that kind of stuff. So in that respect, I was I had a pretty average, I think, experience. I had two loving parents, I had a sister, and cats, and dogs. A very very lovely childhood. Um, However, I was very much different. I was alone a lot, and I was always with my thoughts a lot. And this proved to be a helpful skill set that I was developing, but it also meant that I was very uncomfortable around other people. And I remember Friday nights, this is as a university student, college student, when I was at Kwantlen Polytechnic. At that time, it was called something else, but still Kwantlen. And when I was at Kwantlen, I would spend my Friday nights at the library alone, doing Schenkerian analysis of classical music scores. And at the time, I was living at my parents' house, and they thought, what is she doing on a Friday night? She's telling us that she's going to the library to do musical analysis of Mozart? I don't think so. And so they followed me. And sure enough, every night I was there, Friday night, because that's, so I was very studious, and, and my education paid off. I was rewarded a lot. And so my drinking, I would say, I was never like it's not like I started drinking when I was 12. That wasn't my story. My drinking really kind of picked up in university. And I think it was in response to being uncomfortable. And and then it's just so wild when you think about it, because in my operatic career, I'd sing to 5,000 people a night and I was in my element. Like, never once did I have stage fright. Never once was I nervous, ever. I couldn't wait to get out there. And I loved every single minute. And the reason why I did is because I had figured out how to be so prepared that no matter what happened, because life does and things happen, and you never know what's going to happen on stage, I could handle it. And I did. And I had built a reputation that I could hit it out. I could hit it out of the park every time. And so what was so weird is I was so comfortable in front of 5,000 people a night, but I couldn't be comfortable in a room with two people.
Wow.
So I don't know.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. And so the alcohol helped to relax you, or did you feel like you actually became a little bit of a different person when you had a drink, or?
No, I think it was a companion.
Okay.
It started out like that, because then I at least amused myself when I was talking to myself, because I was quite lonesome a lot. And then when I developed this relationship with alcohol, I certainly did find more. I felt as though I was more, people perceived me as they wanted to see me at social events, which I wasn't accustomed to, sober, or not drinking.
Right.
And so I associated drinking with being comfortable around people. And then that developed into a dependency. And then over time, it obviously turned me against myself, because I found the only way that I could then function really was alone with alcohol.
Interesting. Wow. And so what happened in your life that made you reevaluate your relationship with alcohol and actually give it up?
So this time is the 7th time that I tried to quit.
Oh, okay.
And so I had failed 6 times before, and it's so everybody has a huge story, but for me, when I had finally quit, like so many other women like me, I had times in my life where I didn't drink at all. For example, when I was pregnant, or for the most part, when I was working overseas in a country with a completely different culture and language. And I was no longer working in opera, I was working in China, and it's just a very different work environment. And I was on my own, and I needed to be on my game in order to do what I needed to do when I was there. So when I remember that it was January 23rd, 2020, and I had tickets to go to the Phantom of the Opera, and I had some friends that were in the show. And I bought the tickets to go with a particular friend. And at this point in my life, everybody's just so screwed up when you're drinking too much, and I certainly displayed that. And so this is how my problematic relationship would actually show up day to day. So I bought these tickets for a friend of mine to go, that I didn't actually inform the friend that I was doing it on the day I was doing it. But I just assumed that friend would just do as I asked him to do, because I went ahead and bought these tickets for us. Anyway, and so when individuals said, what? I can't do that. And I got upset. And so I invited another mom friend to go with me. And by the time we went out for dinner, I was 2 bottles in. And because I was upset. And
wow. Yeah.
And then we went out for dinner. I drank more, went to the show. Don't really remember that. Came home. And then I woke, and I've talked about this quite a bit, but I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning with a terrible, terrible hangover, with the 3 a.m. shame game still solidly intact. And I went down to my kitchen, and I called everything out in my kitchen that I hated. I hate that teacup. I hate that tea towel. I hate that coffee machine. And then I realized, that I was saying I hate, and I never thought of myself as a hateful person. But I had become a bitter woman. Not only that, but that I hated everything in my kitchen that I had put there. And once I realized that I had put all those things there, I realized that I could unput them there. I was responsible for my life in the way that it was. I wasn't necessarily responsible for the things that happened to me that caused me to want to numb out. But I was absolutely responsible for how I responded to them. And I never drank again.
Wow. That's so profound. Yeah. And I'm so happy that you shared that, you had tried 6 times before, because it's different than quitting smoking, but the more times you quit, the closer you are to, walking away altogether.
I don't know anybody, I've talked to thousands of women now who have been through this process, and I've never, ever in my life met anybody who, did it the first time.
Yeah.
And I also don't know anybody who did it on January 1st. And I also don't know anybody who did it as the result of doing dry January. I always thought of my people are the dry January dropouts.
Yeah.
These are my people.
Yeah. Yeah, so true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so, going now, just, since that experience on January the 23rd, 2020, and moving along to empower women and to start She Walks Canada, like you were saying before, the language is so important. And I love the word sober curious. I have a friend of mine who, when I quit drinking, she said, I'm sober curious now, and then eventually also stopped. And I've had other friends who are still sober curious, and I'm so proud of all of them, because it's just like, whether you're dipping your toe or you're doing the whole dive, just to know that you actually have a choice. Like, you don't have to drink if you don't want to.
Well, so you just hit it on the head. When we have a problematic relationship with alcohol, we rid ourselves of choice. When we learn to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, we render ourselves limitless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's right, we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to jump around, but I'm like so excited because there's so many things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But your Jay Shetty certification program, did you do that before or after you decided to stop drinking?
After.
Not
So
after.
I,
Okay.
yeah, so it was, oh God, 1 second. So I think I need to just correct my timeline a little bit. She Walks
Yeah.
Canada launched on the 2nd year anniversary of my quitting drinking. It was on the first year of my, it was on my 365 days that I started J Shaming.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that was a little gift to
Great.
myself. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. What
Hmm.
an amazing guy. Yeah.
Hmm.
So that, did you find that course gave you a lot of clarity as to, did you already know, did you have She Walks Canada in your head before the course, or it came as a result of, I think you
So,
said? Yeah.
so it's so funny because you go through Jay's program to learn how to coach people, but what ends up happening is you coach yourself, right? So,
Yeah.
and so I, the thought of She Walks Canada came up when I was about 3 months into the program, and that was in March, and then we launched in January, and it was so funny when I talked to Jay in this March. Actually, it was almost 2 like, just, it's funny how timing all works out. But when I talked to him this year about She Walks Canada, and I had the opportunity to say that She Walks Canada, and the work that we're doing, and the importance of the work that we're doing, and how it came about, as we're in module 4, and,
Yeah.
he's really lovely anyways, but it was a real full circle moment for me, for sure.
Yeah. That's
So his
great.
course is great. So if anybody's looking to be a coach, it's certainly a way to go. You need to identify with his messaging, which, like a million gazillion people really do. But it really helped me to see things from a different perspective, for sure.
Yeah. One thing I love about you, Lindsay, your social media, you're so like, you're so on point and you get to the point, but you do not shame, you do not preach, you provide information. And I would think that that is a skill set. Like I even find sometimes when I'm talking to my friends about not drinking, I have to go, oh my God, I sound like I'm like, hallelujah, because I'm so into it and I'm so excited about it. But I know if I was still drinking and somebody was preaching at me, I'd be like,
Mhm.
I'd drink more, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
So was that something that you developed, or do you feel like that's a God-given gift you have to be a really good spokesperson and provider of information without it being like a preachy kind of?
Well, thank you for that. That's very kind. I
Yeah.
think, to be honest, I learned my opera career really set me up in so many ways for this, right? And
Mhm.
so when I was singing, it was never about me. I was the vehicle in which to move the story along. I was the person the audience had their experience through, but I was there to sing what was on the page, and the audience was there to experience me within the context of their life. And so I guess that in combination with um, I am one of us. I'm not an outsider. I'm a woman who's been through this process, and um, I, I've been through it, and I know how to be a vehicle. I guess my opera career taught
Mhm.
me that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's funny. We were talking a little bit about this in the sound check, but when I think back to drinking, I think of like, oh, once I have the drink, I'll relax. Then all my worries will go away. I won't think about stuff and my inhibitions will lower and I'll have this confidence. Like, and that's what I always loved about alcohol was how it made me feel like, okay,
Mhm.
I can, talk to anybody, do anything. I felt like it gave me confidence.
Mhm.
But in fact, when I examined it as I got older, I'm like, it's actually doing the opposite. It's giving me depression. My sleep patterns are all messed up. Menopause symptoms are insane, like crazy with
Mhm.
alcohol. When I compare it's almost like menopause is no big deal without alcohol
Mhm.
for me. But you know, there's such a misconception, I think. And also there's this book, I don't know if you've read it, Lindsay, it's called Quit Like a Woman.
Mhm.
Have you read that book?
No,
Yeah, and I love you haven't it, so they talk about like it's a feminist approach to looking
I'm
at
certainly
drinking.
familiar with, I'm familiar with Holly's work for sure.
Yeah, okay. So there's one part in the book that I love where they talk about how um and no offense to any men viewers, because I love all the men. This is not I want anybody to be offended, but they were talking about, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, they would do a lot of advertisements with women, with their martini and like a sexy outfit, the long cigarette, the whole thing. And alcohol was like associated with glamour, right? So women had this like association where when they went out at night with their husbands, they would have some drinks and they'd be so glamorous. But what she was saying was it was actually a way of brainwashing women to lower their inhibitions so that men could overpower them by getting them to drink more. This was all like a behind the scenes. It was amazing just how she dissected the whole thing. And, I mean, alcohol for men and women is probably not the best idea in the world, but it was just interesting in the book how she sort of looked at this as, you can, fight against the patriarchy by not drinking, basically was her message. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah. So, yes, the glamorization of the overconsumption of alcohol has got to stop. And I think it
Mhm.
was Ann Dowsett Johnston's book in 2013, because her book was the first of its kind to blow the whistle on how alcohol is marketed and targeted to women, and all of the rising of the pinking of the alcohol market, as it's called. And this is not my research. This is the research of Ann Dowsett Johnston. And so what she
Right.
talks about is how Smirnoff realized that an entire gender was underperforming. And so that was the reason for the rise of things like Mike's Hard Lemonade. And within 2 years, they saw a 66% increase in female drinkers. And so, sure, there was this glamorization in the 30s. And let's just consider how many women were in the executive rooms at that time in the 1930s. Probably none. And so
Right.
Holly's onto something, but so is Ann Dowsett Johnston for blowing the
Yeah.
whistle on how women are targeting, or women are targeted. And let's just go into the LCBO today. Like during COVID, I remember somebody sent me a photo of the messaging tags, the marketing tags on top of a bottle saying "Mummy's assistant teacher" or "a better mummy." So
Yeah.
let's just be clear that a big problem here is absolutely how it's being
Mhm.
marketed, how it's being targeted, the glamorization of alcohol. But let's not stop there. And so another big part of this problem is women. Women who are mothers who are glamorizing the overconsumption of alcohol during mummy playdates at the park. Wine in the thermos instead of coffee. Mummy needs wine to be a better parent. I can go on.
Mhm. Yes, I got to tell you, that was a big contributor to me quitting as well. Was seeing that shit on social media. It made me so mad.
Yeah, I don't I
Yeah,
don't get into I don't get into it on social media, but,
yeah.
there was one post recently where, uh, it was some woman telling another woman that all she needed to do is drink, and her mothering problems would go away. And there were just a boatload of other people who were saying, "This is so irresponsible." So I didn't chime in there, but I did feel the need to tell this woman that if she was gonna defend the need to post that kind of content, that at least she could speak about alcohol use disorder with the right terminology. And this goes back to language. And so, for example, alcoholic is no longer used unless it's in the context of AA, and that's how they talk about it. Power to them. It is still used in clinical practice, but it is outdated. Alcoholism is no longer used because it's been replaced with alcohol use disorder, because it reflects the spectrum of the problem and the spectrum of the support that is required to deal with this health issue. And let's just consider, like, I can go on and on here, Monica.
Yeah, I love this.
Like,
It's such a good education because Lindsay, this is what we learn growing up. You're an alcoholic or you're not. You know how to handle your alcohol or you don't. And that's still embedded in our head. Like just you saying there's a spectrum. Yeah, like, even me quitting drinking right away. Do you have a problem with alcohol? And I was like, well, I don't know. I just know it's not serving me, you know? So where am I on the spectrum? Like, what does that mean? But
Okay,
anyway,
so
continue because I love this.
So
Yeah.
specifically, so I don't know exactly what date they started using alcohol use disorder, but what they realized is that alcohol use disorder and the severity of the problem lies on an issue. It lies on a spectrum. It's not either sober or alcoholic. There is a there's actually an 11 point, and I can go into it, marker system for how a GP or a medical professional can assess the severity of someone's issue. And on those 11 points, I met 7 of them. And so by that, that meant that my case was considered severe. Yet at the time, I was the vice president of an organization, a mother, a wife. I was a member of the community. I was taking my 100-year-old grandmother to church every Sunday. And I was drinking a bottle of wine a night, surrounded in shame, and I hated myself every day. And so here I am thinking, as I'm starting She Walks Canada and have continued to build that organization, how is it that we can connect with the high functioning alcoholic in a way that does not diminish how she shows up in the world? Because as you've already alluded to, as women or as people, we have grown up with the belief that the alcohol, first of all, is a man who is homeless on the street and does not in any way contribute to his children or his community. When the actual fact is, for the first time in recorded history, women have surpassed men in emergency room visits and early death caused by substance use, of which alcohol and tobacco contribute to the majority. I think it's 86% of those deaths. I need to check that stat. But you see what I'm saying? Alcohol is the
Yeah.
number one contributor with tobacco. And then there's opioids and all that other crap. So
Yeah.
we need to reevaluate what it means to be a problematic drinker, or an over drinker, because if we use the term alcoholic, we are doing the people that are suffering a tremendous disservice. And so when I was speaking with my medical community and the medical community who is actually listening to what I'm saying, I said, if we are going to communicate to the high functioning woman who is likely a master's educated vice president, mother of 2 children, a dog, a husband, are completely responsible for the emotional labor of the household. They're likely a caregiver for their parents. How is calling them an alcoholic going to solve this woman's issue? What we need to do, if we are going to get to that woman, even have a hope of having a conversation with that woman, is we have got to not break the facade that she is keeping it together, because she's one bottle away from not.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
And so that's why She Walks Canada exists. And so
Yeah.
what we are doing at She Walks Canada is we offer group coaching by certified life and recovery coaches that are all on the other side of the lived experience of overcoming overdrinking. And the women that come to these meetings are who we're talking about. They are the modern day problematic drinker who is saying, this is not serving me. I have no idea how to deal with this. But I'm certainly not going to a church basement to get up in front of a bunch of people, call myself an alcoholic, and say to everybody why. That is not
Yeah.
me. So instead, I say,
Right.
okay, cool. I hear you. I'm one of you. And so why don't we just go into this meeting over here? We'll talk about what's going on, and we'll hear everybody else talk about what's going on, and we'll see just how common our situation is. And then we'll learn to overcome it together.
Yeah, beautiful. Lindsay, what are some of the things that women have shared with you about their sobriety that has just been like so positive and inspiring to hear?
Ooh, what a great question.
Is there's
Yeah, so I have never in my life met a woman who said, geez, I wish I didn't get sober. But I have met about 48 million who have said, geez, I wish I didn't drink last night. And so it is absolutely across the board that people who do take the positive change and make the positive change to have continuous sobriety or continuous alcohol-free living, however it is that you want to describe your experience, every single one of them has had a life opening up kind of experience every time. Now,
Yeah.
what I think is important to talk about, and something I talk about that I don't hear other people talking about, but I think it's really important, is that there's these stages that we go through. And unless we know that these stages happen, we think that there's potentially something wrong with us. And so I just want to
Mm.
talk about this to illustrate that there's nothing wrong with you. And so
Okay, cool.
when we have developed a problematic relationship with alcohol, we oftentimes can still function on many levels, but we wake up at 3 a.m. and there's a reason for that. It's because our liver is processing, and that's why we wake up at 3 a.m. And so if you are drinking and you're waking up at 3 a.m., that might be a bing, bing, bing. You might want to check your alcohol. But so there's the active drinking phase. And then when we do there's the active drinking phase. And within the active drinking phase is sober curiosity, that beautiful space where we become open to other possibilities and do the research about that. Not saying we're committing to anything, but we are saying, hey, this isn't working for me. I'm interested in what else is out there. And then when we take this really big, beautiful plunge and we stop drinking and we've had a problematic relationship, we go into a phase called sobriety. And that's where we learn how to cope with our lives without engaging in behaviors that cause us to hate ourselves, cause us to underperform in every avenue of our life, or cause us to act in ways that are outside of our moral compass. That takes time. And we also learn, for many of us, that we don't have boundaries. We have just been the emotional punching bag for people. We have been considerable people pleasers. We have we have muted ourselves so that we don't ruffle the feathers of other people. And so it's in this phase that we learn how not to do that, because we have value, we have worth, and we need to show up in the way that we need to so that we can lead the lives we came here to live. And so once we've figured that out, which is huge,
Yeah.
that is the phase of learning to live a life that we don't need to numb out from. But this is where I think there's not enough conversation. It's what comes next. In my experience and in the way I think about this, I do not believe we can or should stay in a state of sobriety. I think once we've had the tremendously transforming experience of learning how to not live one day at a time, we need to build a life that we no longer need to be sober from. Because at some point, we want to live a life where we don't need to think about drinking. It's not even in the conscious. It's like we just go about our lives, and we get the privilege to live the life we came here to live, because that is exactly what we have built for ourselves. And that is alcohol-free living.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. It's funny, going through this over the last, it'll be 2 years in April that I haven't drank. I've had an amazing therapist that I see for different things, and she actually doesn't drink, so it's been fun, like really great to have her to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're saying about boundaries and speaking up for your values, I mean, that is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like sometimes stuff comes out of my mouth and I'm like, who is this woman? And then I'll walk away from a situation and I'm like, damn, I love you. Like I love myself because I just spoke. What came out of my mouth is how I really feel. And before, I don't even think I knew how to put the words together. As long as that person was happy, it was okay if I suffered.
Totally. Yeah. And so we were talking a little bit about this in the sound check too. So I've developed this app, right? And I'm so excited about it. And it's coming into exactly what you were just talking about. And so She Walks Canada is a reflection of what worked for me when I got sober. And I didn't have many resources. I didn't have much, but I had women to talk to. I could walk. That was my situation. But I did download one app and it was a tracker that just tracked how many days sober I was, how much money I was saving, and I got a lot out of that. I'm like, okay. So I am in the process of developing an app, and actually I'm using Jay Shetty's launch team to help me launch it. So I heard about them from Jay actually. So I have a feeling that they know what they're doing. And so I'm very excited. But in the app, I have written from scratch a masterclass on how to identify one's unique core values and principles and how to apply that in day-to-day actions with our everyday people. And what I have learned over time is that so many of us cannot say in one sentence what our core values are. And that is as my experience as somebody through recovery, a coach to all genders, the leader of a national movement to support women, and now as the founder of this app. I would say 85% of people, I say women because that's just primarily who I work with, cannot say in one sentence what their core values are. But what I have come to realize is when we know exactly who we are based on our life experience and are able to attach principles that mean something to us, what ends up happening is we render ourselves unshakable regardless of the situation in which we find ourselves, which means we stop dead in our tracks people pleasing, what you were just saying. We stop dead in our tracks this need to please other people ahead of ourselves, and we're able to start focusing on what it is that we want out of this one life we've been given. And when we focus on that, we become of tremendous service to all the people we're trying to people please when we stay true to ourselves. And so anyways, in this app, that's a cornerstone, and it's all education and community and coaching and all this kind of stuff. I'm really excited about it. But yes.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I love that because there's again, like there's so much misconception about putting yourself first, and as women, like we're so sensitive to it because we are grown up to we are raised as people pleasers. That's how you raise little girls, especially in the 60s, 70s, 80s, I mean 50. Like we're a generation of people pleasers, and then you think, well, I don't want to be selfish because I don't want somebody to think I'm either stealing their thunder, trying to be in the spotlight, like all these things we're told, like don't I don't know, I'm just thinking, like, don't be center of attention, and don't take, you know even when we're kids, like make sure you share your toys with whoever's coming over, like don't hog your own, like all these messages where you basically just have to stand there and look pretty in your little dress and let everybody around you have a great old time while you don't.
But you know what's
Like
so
that's all I
interesting?
could picture.
You know what's so interesting? Hang out in the waiting room of the principal's office at any grade 1 school. And this is the conversation you will hear, especially when there's little girls involved. And this has been my experience. There are a boatload of women out there with young children, school-age children, who are receiving commentary from their teachers because their girls are strong personalities and are difficult. But meanwhile, my response to that is, can we just take a look at the world in which we as women have endured since 2015 alone? So that was the start of the Me Too movement. Okay. And then there was a Trump presidency. Wherever it is that you fall on that, everybody had a response to the Trump presidency. And then in Canada, there was Truth and Reconciliation. And then there was COVID. And so if that's just since 2015. And so women are saying, hold up. I am no longer going to abide by the rules laid out for me by generations past because something's got to give. And our girls that are coming up now have witnessed that firsthand. And so I don't know if there's going to be so much people pleasing in the generations that come after this. And I'm high-fiving it. And the other group of people I high-five, millennials. So many people give millennials a hard time. I'm like, are you kidding me? These people have it figured out. They have been looking at their parents saying, I don't want that. I don't want to work on the evenings. I don't want to work at night. I saw how that affected my parents. I don't want a work-life balance. I want a life and I want to enjoy my work. I'm not a quitter. I'm a life lover and a human being. These people have boundaries. I appreciate there's
Yes.
other situations as well. And like, I respect that. But I don't know. I think there's a thing or two we can learn from the younger people that are coming up.
Oh yeah,
And
you hit the nail on the head.
one
I
more
love
thing I'm
that.
gonna add. One more thing I'm going to add. 30 years
Yeah.
down the road, those people that we're just talking about, these young people, they're going to look
Mhm.
back and this is what is going to happen. And I hope to God that it does, because it will mean I did my job. These women are going to look back and, Monica, can you believe that there were women that needed to come out about not drinking a substance that causes 12 forms of cancer in women? And it was difficult for them because that was considered shameful. Not only that, they needed support groups to support these women. And it was an addictive substance, but somehow these women have been programmed to believe and conditioned to believe that it's their fault and that they are morally flawed. Can you believe those women had to go through that? And you're damn right.
Yes.
I'm going to make sure that that conversation happens.
Oh my God, Lindsay, I just got an idea for your social media because what you just said is like so powerful. You got to do like a future talk. You know what I mean? Like here's a millennial talking in the year 2050, and this is what they're talking about. And because that's shocking.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
it really is.
mhm. By the way, I've already done it.
Oh,
It's in the app.
is it in the app?
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a
okay, that
lot
is
in the app.
really cool. And I loved your reel about um, alcohol keeping women in the kitchen by that.
So that's Andouset
Walking talk.
Johnston's line. That's
Yeah,
Andouset Johnston's line. And
yeah,
I remember I was so weird because, people say things, then you have a response. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm pretty emotionally tuned in, and I'm like, I have no idea why I'm angry at this, but I'm angry. And I needed to reflect on that one because I wasn't sure. But yes,
Yeah. Oh, it was great. Oh my gosh, I can't believe an hour is up with you. This is crazy.
I know it's fast.
Such, yeah, such a good topic. And thank you so much for what you're doing for women. Honestly, um, this is amazing. Like, this is how we get our power back, man.
And I
Yeah.
thank you. And I don't believe we need to get our power back. I believe we are just uncovering the power we already have.
Yeah. Yes, that's so true. Release the
Mhm,
power.
mhm.
Needs to
Dust it
be
off.
released. Yeah, it is not, it's dormant and now it's got to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
so good. Oh, thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah.
I will put you in the virtual
Sure.
green room and come right back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot about alcohol-free living and the excitement of sobriety. Lindsay is amazing. Please follow her on Instagram. You can find her at She Walks Canada. Check her out, and I'm going to talk to her about the run, the walk. Who's going to do it with me? Well, I won't be running. I'll be walking. Um, I don't think Lindsay said anything about running, but anyway, have a great rest of your day. Check out our show sponsors. Come out to Scooters on a Thursday night for roller skating. Get yourself a Three Little Wishes necklace at glamjewels.com. Work with me on a future fundraiser, and I will help you to give back to your community. And also make sure to check out brendabadome.com and get 20% off of your order. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas. We're going to take a break next week. Have a wonderful holiday. See you back here on January 2nd with another awesome guest. And keep on showing the world your sparkle. You're awesome.